So we're hoping that this is, an opportunity to answer any questions that you might have that weren't answered in the informational materials that were sent out before. So if you do have questions, as we're going through this presentation, feel free to drop it in the chat and we will answer it as we go along. But hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Santellis. I'm the Director of Academic Services and Learning Resources. We're really excited that you've joined us today to learn a little bit more about what we're doing with the Common Application for Passport, Odyssey, and the Mentor Program. So a lot of you are first year students, and that's great. So this is, new to you in general, but for our returning students, you may be familiar with separate applications in the past for the Passport Program, Mentor Program, and Odyssey. So we've decided to partner the Office of Multicultural Education and Academic Services and Learning Resources on one application to save you all time, but also it's because we recognize that there was a lot of overlap between our three programs in terms of the student leaders that applied. So we wanted to save you all time and give you the opportunity to apply with one application. So we'll jump right into that, and I will allow my colleagues here to introduce themselves as we go throughout the PowerPoint. So I'll turn it over to Michelle.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Rose Martins. I am the Director of the Office of Multicultural Education and the Odyssey Program. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris Campbell, pronouns he, him, and his. I also work closely with Michelle. I'm one of the assistant directors in the Office of Multicultural Education. And I have the wonderful opportunity to co-direct the mentor program with Justine and Kelly. So nice to meet you all.
I'm Justine Fisher, Associate Director in Academic Services and Learning Resources. I direct the Mentor Program and I direct Passport.
All right, so as you can see on this slide, there are a number of reasons why this may be beneficial, but I'm going to give you just a little bit of context before Chris will talk to you specifically about this slide. So the Office of Multicultural Education and Academic Services and Learning Resources really have been partnering since 2004, and it started with the Mentor Program. For some time, we did assist with the Passport Program, but in the last few years, that has not been a part of our partnership, but we do offer some training to Passport student leaders. We also find, as she mentioned, that there's a huge overlap between the leaders who apply and to all of these programs, and why not make it easier for students to apply and really take advantage of this whole process. And so some things to think about are just how this will transition and actually play a role in the future of all of these programs. And so this summer, there may be an opportunity to offer mentoring similar to what we did in the college transition program. For those of you who participated in the CTP program, you know how great it was to have those connections as you were coming into your first year and have to meet and be able to meet some students before actually starting the school year. And that's our hope for most of the students going through this. And so that opportunity may be available for students. And then lastly, we just wanted to be able to reach more students since it was a virtual capacity in that way. And so some of the components that we did in the CTP program may continue in the future as we continue to partner across Passport and Odyssey and the Mentor Program.
Awesome. So we just want to also highlight, just some important things that we think will be beneficial for you all to note. The first is that, let me start with some of the benefits. So, as mentioned before, this is, the first is that you all have the opportunity to apply for all three programs with just one application. And that's just a huge benefit of having the Common App. The Common App will also allow you to interview for these three distinct roles with just one interview. So instead of having different interviews for each of the position, you'll only have one interview, and you'll be interviewing with all of us. So you'll interview with the folks who are leading and hosting a conversation today. We also want to highlight, again, some important things. So you cannot serve as both an Odyssey mentor, and a Passport student leader. And this is just due to scheduling overlap. But if you have further questions about that, just feel free to reach out to us and we will be sure to answer your questions regarding that. Um, Again, due to COVID hiring, due to the current situation that we're in with the ongoing pandemic, there might be some hiring restrictions here or there. We're still monitoring things as we go. That's something that we want to just put out there for folks as we continue with the application process and we continue to learn new information. Lastly, we just want to encourage everyone to review all the position descriptions carefully as you think about which position you're interested in or positions that you are interested in. I'll turn over to Justine.
Thank you. And just to piggyback off of Chris, some of the hiring restrictions and things like that, we encourage you to apply. Just apply regardless, because we're in an ever-changing environment. If you're interested in the positions, put your name out there, and then, as things, may or may not change, we can update you from there. And if you have any questions about what that entails, I know they're in some of the position descriptions, you can certainly reach out to us. And then we did want to highlight some changes, right, to the programs for this year. So a lot of you are first-year students. I see a lot of familiar faces that participated in our college transition program. So you're probably wondering about what's happening with that, right? So in the summer of 2020, ASLR and OME hosted the college transition program in lieu of some of these summer programs because the pandemic was new. There was a lot of unknowns. And so that was something that we, which is very similar, right, to the mentor program that we put into place last summer. And we plan to continue that model. We thought it was successful. We loved the fact that students got to be matched up with a peer mentor. And so we're planning on moving forward with having some mentoring opportunities in the summer and with the mentor program, in addition to the mentoring that you all or students receive through Passport and Odyssey. And so, like I just mentioned, the mentor program will start in the summer, and this will provide similar support to what you received. And so we are hiring for summer mentors. And if you apply to Passport or Odyssey, as Chris mentioned, you can't do Passport and Odyssey at the same time as a student leader, but you can be a peer mentor while being a Passport leader or a Odyssey mentor. And those will run concurrently at various times throughout the summer. All right. So for our next slide, we thought we might just go a little bit more in detail about the positions. And so I'm happy to start with Passport. And so we have about 5 different positions available in Passport for the summer. And so first and foremost is our Pathfinder position, which is it's a mentoring position, but it's also a residential position where the students that are our Pathfinder lead programming. For our students, they lead reflection groups. They are in charge of the residential experience and happening on campus for our Passport students. And you also, as I mentioned, might be able to, if you're applying for that position, might be able to serve as a peer mentor as well. Then we have our academic staff positions, which we have 2 courses that are typically offered in Passport. So Passport is a program that students are able to take a course during the program and get college credit for it. And so the couple of courses that we offer is we offer writing courses, and we offer a science or quantitative based course. This year, we're going to have a professor teach a chemistry course during Passport. And so with those positions, we have TAs, teaching assistants, and teaching assistants go to class every day. They support the professor. They help with what I will call afternoon labs. I'll get into that a little bit. And they also provide tutoring for students in those courses. For the STEM teaching assistant position and the fellow position, which I'll talk about, really all you need to have is calculus under your belt, but it is helpful if you have some type of intro science course as well, whether that be biology or chemistry. And for writing, it's helpful if you've taken English 387, but it's not required for the teaching assistant position. And so if you have a general interest in writing, we definitely encourage you to apply as well. And for the fellow position, so that's a little bit more of a senior position than the teaching assistant position. Those positions are where the students go to about 6 hours of class per week and also support the professor, but they lead outside of class group study sessions on a daily basis, where they put together lesson plans and for the students every single day, and they lead a lesson every single day, and they get support from the teaching assistant. So if you're interested in the education field or just kind of getting some of that experience, that's a great position for you to apply for. And then it's not all just academics with the academic staff. You do still live on campus with the students. You participate in the residential experience as well, and you often end up in a mentorship role, just like the Pathfinders do. And I'm happy to meet with anybody if you have questions about the ins and outs of all these different positions, because they can be confusing and a little bit nuanced. And I'll pass it over to Michelle for Odyssey.
Sounds good. So the Odyssey program usually runs for about 4 to 7 days, depending on the year. And it is a retreat to help students kind of ground themselves in their values, their identity, and build a sense of community before the semester starts, before you start your first semester in college. Now, because of the community-based aspects of Odyssey, last summer we obviously couldn't hold it because we'd want you all to be in the same residential space, whether it's on campus or at the Joyce Contemplative Center. And so the Odyssey mentor role really serves as a facilitator and a mentor. And in this role, you'll be expected to facilitate icebreakers, team activities, and also meet with your students one-on-one to have reflection, to have conversation around reflection questions and their journey at Holy Cross. And so when I think about hiring Odyssey mentors, we're thinking about more generally between 8 and potentially 15 mentors. And in that role, I look for students who you may have experience doing icebreakers, or you may have experience leading activities, but we also look for students who have high energy, are a resource to other students on campus. So they are involved on campus, they know what's going on, or you're resourceful. And so what that means is that if I ask you a question, or if you need to know more information, you know where to find it on campus. And so to be an Odyssey mentor really requires the ability to be open to learning a new way of making community and gathering as a community, but also being really interested in the first year experience and how they transition to college. And so we hire every class year, obviously, except for the first years, because they'll be going to Odyssey. And so we look for students who exhibit those qualities, but also I want to emphasize that having prior experience in organizations and being a student leader on campus doesn't necessarily make you the best candidate for Odyssey. It's more of an approach and a perspective on how to learn and how to create community. And so I recommend that if you are interested in learning more about this, you can visit the Odyssey website. You can also talk to myself, and you can talk to Chris. As an alum, he also has another perspective on the Odyssey program. But that's what we're expecting. And so for the summer of 2021, we are still, I will be transparent in that we are still working out the logistics around what it looks like, whether it will be on campus or at the JCC or have to be virtual. But either way, we still want you to think more about this position and if you would be a good fit. And if you think this is a program you'd be interested in, I say apply and let's have a conversation about it. Similar to Justine, if you have any questions around the Odyssey program, about the role itself, feel free to email me directly, and we can set up a time to chat, or I can answer your questions via email. Also, we'll talk about it later, but in the case that you think about things afterwards.
Awesome, Michelle. So I want to talk a little bit about the mentor program. And so we want to highlight that we'll have a position for summer peer mentor, in addition to the opportunity for that individual to continue in that leadership role into the academic year. So for the 2021-2022 academic year, being a mentor. Both positions, so the summer mentor position and the academic year mentor positions are very similar in doing obviously a little, tweaks here and there, because one is operating during the summer and one is operating during the academic year. But essentially, the mentor program is open to students in their transition from high school to Holy Cross. And specifically, we're talking about Alana students, first-gen students, students eligible for the Pell Grant, international students, and also students invited to the Passport program. In this program, students are matched. So first-year students are matched with an upper class peer mentor for ongoing conversations, advice, and friendship, right? And we match folks based on various different, very different criteria. So as it relates, it might be, a match made based on academic major or extracurricular interest or one's background. And we see mentors as vital resources when it comes to that first year, making that transition and adapting to the college environment. Some of the goals, of the mentor program, one is to, help first, like to create an atmosphere that minimizes anxiety, promotes positive attitude, and one that seeks to stimulate a vibrant learning environment for first years. We're looking for folks who are going to provide a supportive relationship and sufficient, an individual who's going to provide sufficient feedback to help first years make well-informed decisions, and also, just be supportive as they transition. I see some first years on the call right now, and I know y'all are still transitioning into that college experience, as you get ready to start your spring semester. And you had questions over the summer, you had questions throughout the fall semester, and you have questions as you launch into your spring semester. And so we're looking for mentors who are going to be very, very supportive, but also a mentor that is going to provide vital and sufficient feedback to help first years with that transition. Also, just assisting, we're looking for mentors who are going to assist in adjusting, helping first years to adjust to the academic environment at Holy Cross, and help them to develop in a strong identity as a scholar, right? And so we know how the academics can be rigorous at Holy Cross. And so we're looking for folks who are going to help to sort of guide first years in the right direction, right? As it pertains to their academics. Another thing of the goal, one of the goals of this program is just to establish relationships with the institutions, faculty, staff, and peers. So we're looking for folks out there in the community who are very much knowledgeable of the resources that exist. And guess what? If you don't know about the resources, that's okay, because we have trainings and we have opportunities for folks to learn what those resources are. And so if I'm being quite transparent, we're looking for folks who are oftentimes willing to learn and willing to understand the resources that are available for anyone and all students, not just first year students. Michelle said this quite, well, approach and perspective. We're looking for, I think that's a really good way to wrap it up. We're not looking for cutter mentors, someone who's approachable and someone who brings this dynamic perspective to the mentor program. Again, if you have, similar to Justine and Michelle, if you have any questions at all, and you're trying to navigate, summer mentor program, academic year peer mentor, reach out to me. I'm glad to set up some time to talk to you about the difference in both opportunities, but also if you're just curious and you want to know more, feel free to send me an email directly.
Great. And Kelly, because you work with Passport and and mentor programs so much, was there anything you wanted to add to what was said before we move on?
No, I feel like everything was covered, but as you all can see and hear, like we're looking for folks who are, motivated, willing to learn and to help, your fellow peers out, right? So if any of these positions are appealing to you, please apply. And if you're not sure which one would be the right fit, definitely, reach out to any of us and we'd be happy to answer your questions as you make your decisions there.
All right, so a little bit about the application and the timeline. And so the position descriptions can be found at the link shown on your screen. I don't know if one of my colleagues would like to pop that link into the chat since I'm sharing my screen. But, again, we encourage you to go through each of the position descriptions, get a feel for what the time commitment is, what, the timeline is, and everything in that nature, and also what is involved with each of the application or each of the positions. And then again, we have a Common App. So to apply, here's our link to our Common App. You can also find it on our various websites. And, again, just to reiterate, I know you've heard it a couple of times, but you can click whatever positions that you want to apply for and tailor it to your needs and go from there. If you're hearing my dog, I'm sorry. She's going crazy. And so our application deadline is February 12th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, as Chris mentioned in an earlier slide, we'll have interviews in March. We'll generally have one interview for all the positions that you apply for, so you don't have to do multiple interviews. If you do apply for a Passport academic staff, you might have a separate interview with that as well, but we will keep you informed regarding when to sign up and schedule your interviews with us. All right, I think I will turn it to everyone on the call and just answer whatever questions that you have on your mind.
Hi, I'm Megan, and I know that you had mentioned that there will be a chemistry course that's going to be taught, and I'm wondering if you have any information about the second course that will be offered.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so I do want to clarify that a bit more. So usually with Passport, we run two distinct courses for sections, right? And so there is a chemistry course that's going to be taught by Professor Avi Lebrun in the chemistry department. And so students will get credit for that. And then students that participate in Passport might also be able to take our writing course, which we offer 3 sections of that. And that is taught by various professors. Our professors this year are Professor Harin in anthropology and Professor Crawford Sullivan in sociology and Professor Britt Smith, who's the director of Center for Writing. And so, and to clarify a bit more, the student leaders do not take the courses while you go to class to prepare for tutoring and your support sessions. It's the participants that do physically take the course.
Okay, thank you so much.
And the one thing I did want to add to that is, because I wasn't specific with it earlier, there are 3 writing TA positions because there's 3 writing classes. There's 3 fellow positions for writing. And then there's one science TA and one science fellow position. So there's 8 academic staff positions in all.
And just because this came up in a separate message, that there's a question about references. So don't feel like if you're asking a faculty or staff member for a reference that they're going to need to provide a full letter of recommendation. We would encourage you to ask someone that you have a relationship with. Maybe you've gone to their office hours a few times, or you've gone to a particular staff member a few times and you have a relationship with them. So really all they're doing is vouching for you, but they are not expected to write a letter of recommendation. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I have a question.
Sure.
Is having like your own transportation like a car like recommended for like if you're going to be like a Pathfinder for the Odyssey, or like for any other mentoring or passport mentoring, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. No, having a vehicle or the ability to drive is not required for any of these positions. If there is driving at all, we would make sure that, that's handled on our end. If any of our student leaders need to, for instance, drive one of the vans, we would make sure there's van certification, but that is not a requirement at all.
I just had a question about passport for the academic staff positions. Do they work a lot with like students with programming and leading things, or is that more of a Pathfinder, or do they work together in that?
I think that's a really excellent question. The academic staff is their primary responsibility is putting together the materials and activities for study hall and for their labs. But as I mentioned before, it is a residential program, and so the programming, while Pathfinders tend to be the ones that run the outside of classroom programming experiences, usually the academic staff, if they feel like they want to jump in and help, they go ahead and do that. And I think our Pathfinders are always willing for partners in those activities and whatnot. And because it's such a close cohort where generally everybody is living in one residence hall, the academic staff generally participates in all of those events as well. I'm being a little bit vague. We don't know 100% what all the activities and the field trips will look like this summer due to the pandemic, but the academic staff has every opportunity to be as involved as they want in those experiences. And, usually if an academic staff member comes up to me or one of my colleagues and says, I'm just really interested in gaining that type of experience too, we can work with you and with your goals of what you want to achieve in that student leadership position.
Thank you.
And I just noticed that Ari had a question about CTP. So if you wanted to work in CTP, would that be a summer peer mentor? So the college transition program, as Michelle was describing earlier, was a program that, or Justine was describing, was a program that came out of, a desire to kind of replace the programs that we weren't able to run last summer, which were Passport and Odyssey program. So the college transition program was really for that 1 year. However, we saw the benefits of that program, and we love the idea of giving that opportunity for incoming first year students to connect with current Holy Cross students heading into their first year. So while it's not going to be called CTP, we'll be doing very similar work, right? So it's essentially an extension of the mentor program. So if you enjoyed your CTP experience and you wanted to be that type of mentor for an incoming first year student, you would apply for a summer peer mentor position. And if you were interested, you could possibly continue with the mentor program in the fall semester as a peer mentor as well. Does that answer your question, Ari? Great.
The only other thing I'll add here is that it might be hard if you're a first year student who hasn't seen these programs actually in motion to really understand what we would be asking of folks when they apply. And so I would really advocate for you all to talk to the leaders of these programs, whether they have been like some of your mentors in the mentor program, if you met them in CTP, or if you know other students on campus, because they're going to give you some perspective on what they had to do in those roles and maybe what they did when they were participants. I realize that it's really hard to understand like how all of these are different, and maybe it may sound very similar, aside from Passport, because there's the academic experience there, and that really sticks out. But I would ask for you to talk to people who you know on campus if you weren't, if you don't already know what Passport is like or what Odyssey is like. The mentor program, I would imagine, is very similar, and you'll get a taste of that if you're on campus this year and you're a part of the program. You can somewhat get a taste of that, but I do want you to think more about these programs and asking your peers what they think and what they've been through as a student leader, but as a participant, because it starts to kind of mold what you think you'll be doing if you were to get this role. And I understand that's pretty hard, being that like some of you are just getting to campus, never mind understanding the program. So
I think that's a really excellent point. And if you don't, if you don't know somebody who's participated in the programs or the specific program that you're interested, or the specific position that you're interested in, reach out to us, because we probably can connect you with someone who would be more than willing to talk to you about their experience.
Is the academic year peer mentor position closed to students who are planning to study abroad for a semester that year?
That's a really good question. And so um, I think for now it's okay if you're thinking about it, that's okay. You haven't made a decision, still go ahead and apply. But I would name that priority will be given to folks who will be available to be a mentor for the entire academic year.
Okay, thank you so much.
So it seems as though we are not getting any more questions. And again, like if questions do come up, feel free to reach out to our respective programs. The emails are listed there and in the chat. And each of our programs, I believe, have FAQs on our sites as well. And again, things may be a little bit different as we go into the summer or the fall with COVID and whatnot, but we're still happy to answer your questions, and the FAQs could be really helpful as well. And I just got another question about first year students being able to apply to these programs. Yes, as you all are rising second year students, you're eligible to apply. Okay, so I guess if we don't have any more questions, we can end here. And if you want to stick around for a couple more minutes, we'll be around for a few more minutes as well. But if that is all, we'll say, goodbye, everyone. Enjoy the next few days off from classes, and we hope you have a wonderful start to your spring semester.